Hi, everyone. Welcome to the completely unnecessary podcast for Tuesday. It's a new year. January 5th, 2021.
Is this our first one of the new? It is.
Yeah. That's Ian Ferguson. I'm Pat Contry. I just got my flying car parked outside. I just bought it brand new. Where are the flying cars? You lied to us in the 50s.
Jesus Christ. You and John making the same exact joke.
They lied to us in the 50s and 60s. They lied.
This is exactly how John opened the most recent Extra Napkins, bitching about flying cars.
Okay, well, it annoys me. On the show today, we're talking about Nintendo dropping 3DS and DSiWare games, Bleem returning, an update on the Television Amico because we have to talk about it, and maybe a Q&A. Ian, how was your weekend here?
It was fine. Vonnie started watching, I guess Vonnie and I started trying to watch that Blood of Zeus show that's on Netflix. I don't know if you saw it. It's like a new adult cartoon, but I think it's instead of it being like a Japanese animation studio, I think it's a Western animation studio, and that's the big deal. It's really nicely animated, but I just can't get into the story. Other than that, I've been reading a book on Antarctica that is particularly...
I saw some of this Blood of Zeus. This was the mythology one.
Yeah.
I saw a little bit of it.
It doesn't really have anything...
Well, the characters are mythological.
Yeah. It's whatever. It looks nice. I wish I was more interested in the story, because it is nice to kind of see, like... It reminds me animation
There's all demons, and the demons, I forget, they take over human bodies. Is that what happens?
Yeah, if I recall correctly.
You gotta cut their heads off or something? I forget. Yeah, it looked pretty good.
But it reminds me of like it reminds me of like an 80s cartoon, but with the blood and the gore and all that stuff, you know.
Like Voltron?
I guess. It strikes me as...
Thundercats? More like Thundercats.
More like, yeah, a little bit more like that, I guess. I don't know. It's all right. It didn't grab me as much as I was hoping it would. So, yeah, other than that, I have nothing really to say. I started playing Ease 1 again last night.
I played Sin and Punishment for the N64 because I never played video games. And it was fun. It's fun. It's tough. I played on normal difficulty. The default's easier because I looked at some gameplay videos. Like, how to get past this part? I was like, wow, why is it taking so much less hits to beat that boss? Oh, I'm playing on normal, which is what you should do when you're reviewing it, I think, professionally. Set on the default. But I can't imagine playing it on the hard mode. So you don't know, Sin and Punishment, people out there, is a third-person rail shooter. It didn't come out here, which is funny because the voice acting's in English. So I'm not sure why they didn't just localize the menus and put it out here. It wouldn't have taken that much work at that point to do that. They didn't think it was going to sell. Arcade-style shooter.
I think it was later on in the system's lifespan.
Yeah, too. late 2000.
Yeah.
But got great reviews at the time. I gave it a great review. If you play through it, it's almost like a elongated arcade game because the gameplay is probably about an hour if you know what you're doing. It's about 26 minutes of cutscenes, though, with full voice acting. That's a lot for an N64 game. I was surprised. I couldn't think on the top of my head, and I'm not a big N64 expert. I couldn't think of another game that had that much voice acting in it for the N64 to that extent. No. Did they have voice acting in the Resident Evil 2 on N64 or no?
Probably, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not the person to talk to about that.
But I mean, on the top of my head, I couldn't think of it because obviously on cartridge it took a lot more space than on a CD for like a PlayStation. So that's one of the things against the N64. By that point, they probably figured out the compression, I guess, a little bit more. But anyway, so yeah, it was fun playing that the weekend I reviewed it, and damned if I could follow the plot of that game. It's a cult hit, but they even did I think they did like a book in Japan. The plot is so out there that I just stopped. I zoned out in the story like 3/4 way through. After the third plot twist, I was like, what the hell is going on here? Just give me back. I didn't skip them though. I wanted to press the skip button. I said I'll sit through these cutscenes and figure out what is happening. And by the end, I didn't know what was happening at the end. But spoilers, at the end, you are facing an alternate Earth. You basically are fighting on your planet, but have to fight another Earth that's trying to destroy your Earth. And at that point, I'm like, okay, just play the game. Don't worry about the plot.
Yeah, I mean, you can't trouble yourself too much with that.
But it's a fun rail shooter. Check it out there. I think it isn't too expensive to import. I also watched some of Cobra Kai season 3. It came to Netflix. And they put season 1 and 2 on only like 3.5 months ago, 4 months ago. I think it was like September. And then they had shot this so long ago, probably like a year ago before COVID.
Yeah, I thought season 3 was supposed to come out a while back.
Right? due to obviously Netflix getting, they probably want to space it out a little bit. But it's diminishing returns at this point for Cobra Kai. It's the nostalgia rag has been wrung almost dry at this point for the nostalgia. It's like, how much more can we get? I'm just waiting for Mike Barnes to come back from the third movie. At that point, it's done. I'm sure they're going to bring back everyone from the third movie. They're going to bring back the guy who founded Cobra Kai, probably, from the third movie. Mike Barnes was the one facing LaRusso, but the guy chewing the scenery was, God, what is his name? And that was one of his first times he acted. I think I saw that actor. Terry Silver. The evil corporate dude, like, who's lived on the phone, like, in a bathtub with his fancy 1930s gold telephone, saying, I don't care about toxic waste, dump it anywhere. But then, being the fact that he's probably close to a billionaire, also still cares about a local, karate dojo thing going on. Because spoilers, if you didn't see their movie, Kreese saved his life in Nam, so that's his way of paying him back. So that's how they tie in that. But in season 3 of Cobra Kai, they're actually trying to humanize Kreese by showing his backstory and him going to Nam and going through that, and that's how he developed the Cobra Kai mentality of being tough because of surviving. It's like, okay, you're trying to humanize Kreese. I get it. But the stuff with LaRusso is getting tired by season 3. He's not an engaging character to stay around, I think, for this amount of time.
I enjoyed the first season. It didn't.
But the first season, LaRusso wasn't so much 50-50. Now he's totally 50-50 to the plot. Like, he's the co-protagonist. He wasn't so much in the first season. He was like 30% there, and now it's dead 50-50. And I liked it more when it framed LaRusso more as the asshole. Now it's like, well, he's just a guy trying to do
a guy doing stuff,
doing his car business in the valley, and it's like, okay, all right. Sorry, that's all I got on that.
That's all right.
Nostalgia at this point is eating me alive. The over nostalgia. I've aged 30 years the past couple years when it comes to nostalgia stuff, where I'm just like, what?
No, nostalgia gets to be a bit much for me too. I heard that Wonder Woman 84 is not a good movie at all.
Yeah, I heard. I'm not sure because is it just because of the 80s is too much?
No, I heard it's just a bad movie.
Just a bad movie.
But I mean, the focus on the 80s is one of the reasons why I'm just like, I don't need to.
It's not fresh anymore. It's not fresh.
It rarely was. I remember.
I
just remember being in the 90s, and I remember like this,
I remember being in the 90s.
I remember like growing up being like a teenager in the 70s stuff having its like big comeback, and my parents cringing and rolling their eyes and gritting their teeth.
That 70s show came out.
And all that stuff, and it's the same exact thing that's happening to us. Dipping back into the past for a quick nostalgia hit. It's not fresh.
Well, that's to that 70s show credit, it was just the backdrop. They didn't lean on the 70s stuff.
I'm not specifically just talking about that 70s show. I'm talking about the fact that, every decade before the 80s has gone through this, and the 90s is going through it now.
But this is not going to, because the 80s is like this weird decade where I think it's going to stand out going forward. Because when I watch the 80s commercial every Wednesday on twitch.tv/CountryCode, the 80s was the decade of the boomers being in their 20s and 30s now, and wanting to go back to the 50s at that point, or even the early 40s. They go back to the 50s. So it was like 30 years later. We're approaching 40 years later now. I hate to say it from the 80s. We're approaching 40 years later. I don't think this is going to die off, because the 80s is such a sort of iconic sort of look of and feel of the culture and everything that happened. And since so many things from the 80s are now disappearing.
I feel like you could say that about the 70s though too.
No. Malls are disappearing. Physical media, cassettes have come back. This is all stuff entrenched in the 80s. Like it's particular to the 80s. That's what I mean. I don't think it's, younger women are wearing 80s styles without realizing it's 80s styles right now. It's a whole thing. It's a thing. So anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, nostalgia. I think I tapped out when I heard they were making a Punky Brewster reboot, and I was like, "Woo, okay, I'm done." Yeah. That is the quintessential. I said to people, that's the quintessential 80s show. Like, that represents the 80s in so many ways. Punky Brewster, so many freaking ways. Yet it was only on for like 3.5 years, I think. But we think it's like, oh, it was the 80s. No, it was like 3-4 years at Punky Brewster. That was it.
I was gonna be surprised if it was even on for that.
But they had like the Challenger episode. She's like a wacky little orphan with a it's like an Annie retelling kind of. It's a weird thing that belongs in the 80s. I've seen all these commercials for these 80s sitcoms that would never ever even get a sniff today. It's like, wow, they were witches in medieval times transported to the 80s, and it's like I never heard of any of these sitcoms, but there was tons of stuff like that. These really big idea 80s sitcoms that failed. Punky Brewster should have failed, but it was the one that took off and
definitely should have failed.
But it was the one that took off and even got a cartoon show, you know. So, well, we're talking about the 80s. Yes, that's what's happening. Speaking of the 80s,
the Atari VCS is now in people's hands.
The Atari VCS is in people's hands. You can play Cyberpunk on it, kind of. So it's interesting. I thought I shut the alert off there on my Discord. So the article's from Comic Book. Was it Resource? Cyberpunk 2077 is unplayable on Xbox One and PS4, but it does barely run on Atari VCS. Whether or not it should is another story. That's a great little tag there.
Yeah.
On the lead there. And basically, it goes into some details here. Continue scrolling to keep reading. So since it's a PC, you're a little bit closer to functionality with Cyberpunk on the Atari VCS. In theory, that version should be the most playable if a decent enough setup. Right? That's the theory.
Right. And I mean, so you just put the damn thing into sandbox mode and you see what you can squeeze out of it.
He had to work around so the guy that did it was this guy named Kenson here.
Kevin Kenson.
Is it Kevin? Oh no. Sorry, Kevin. So the VCS, he had to work on the console's limitations. The VCS has 8 gigs of RAM and lacks a graphics card. So it struggled to boot games up without some modifications. So you can upgrade, but you can upgrade, since it's a computer, you can upgrade the RAM directly. That was one of the features of having the different models of the VCS, is that one has more memory. So that wouldn't be that hard. Is there a graphics card slot in this, though? Probably not. That's what I probably not on this board. So at that point, you're really going to struggle. He had increased the page file size of the system. Wow, I remember doing that at Windows 7 and Windows 98.
Yeah, holy shit.
That's basically like was that to do with virtual memory or something like that, or it had to do with like the amount of space that's easily swappable, the files back and forth. It's to speed up the system basically. You're fucking around there with Windows to do it. You're hacking it. Okay, so he did that. He meant telling the VCS about half the space that was made available by those settings tweaks. All that space became virtual RAM the system could use to run beefier games. There you go. You're basically using hard drive space as RAM.
Right.
It's a workaround which I guess can work. So there you have it. Doom Eternal didn't boot though, but Cyberpunk did, which is funny.
It's crazy to me. Like, I still want to know what people are actually going to do with these Atari VCSs because
emulation device.
Yeah, I guess that's about it. Because like Hades, it's talking about how Hades, became playable on the VCS, but games like Fortnite need to be run at minimum settings. That's less power than I would have expected, I think, from this thing in sandbox mode. Yeah, so they. I'm trying to see if there's any pictures of Cyberpunk running. No.
I'm sure it's on the lowest settings possible.
Yeah, it didn't run particularly well. Even with every setting at minimum, the game's struggles are amplified on the VCS. You can practically count the frames per second as you move through Night City. So it is technically functional, but yeah, not really playable, I would say.
Yeah, I can't find the link from this article. I should. Oh, here it is. Oh, it's right there. Oh, it's right down there. Okay, here it is. The video's down below here.
Yeah.
And it's not, and of course now it's not running because it's like the Atari VCS. It's spinning and spinning the video. All right, we'll come back to that. Quibi update. We got an update in Quibi.
Update.
So Quibi. Oh my God. Yeah. No, sorry. Now I'm watching the video. It's running. Okay. It's like 15 to 20 frames a second. 15 frames a second. It's playable. It's playable. Here you go, Ian. Did you see the video?
No.
It's like you're drunk. He's like, whoa, is that running it? Is that Cyberpunk? Or is that another game?
I don't know. Moving on.
Okay. No, he's playing it. It's just really low. Okay. So Roku is a service out there. That's like it's like streaming devices. It's a brand name, right?
Yeah, basically they were kind of like the first big popular like set-top streaming box.
They were one of those.
So if you didn't have like a PlayStation 3 or a 360 to use like the Netflix app on, you could get it. You could buy a Roku, which essentially did all the streaming stuff. And
before there was a lot of streaming 10 years ago when these things came out, like Boxy Box, I thought that was going to be the big runaway hit. It wasn't. But Roku is the one that really has come on. Like, it's basically an Android box, right? Yeah. You can do other stuff on it. You can load up your own files and watch them on some of these, right? Things like that. Some people use they're basically pirate. They can be pirate boxes as well. So Quibi, remember Quibi, the biggest entertainment failure we've ever heard of.
I do not remember Quibi.
Well, Quibi.
At least I was hoping to quickly forget it.
Quibi came about after COVID and before we got the vaccine. That's how short the time frame was for Quibi. Hopefully, COVID it runs out at the same rate, but it's still progressing. Quibi is in advanced talks to sell its content catalog to Roku, according to people familiar with the matter, as the short-form streaming service winds down its operations following an unsuccessful run. I think the app is done. You can't even, the app doesn't even load anymore. It doesn't even say like, oh, we're done. And there's no like even page saying, hey, we're gone. The servers are gone.
It just hangs.
They like shut down the servers like nothing's even on them anymore. It's embarrassing. What an embarrassment.
Yeah. Wow.
This was a $1.75 billion investment founded by the movie mogul Jeffrey Katzenberg, an ambitious plan to develop high-end content for mobile phones. We saw how that turned out. Woo! Never gained traction after launch in April, and in October said it was shutting down. Roku is the most popular streaming media player in the U.S., so they're pushing into content with its own ad-supported app, the Roku channel. See, Quibi? Roku telling you how to do it. Just do ad-supported shit, and people at least give your dumb programs a try with free with ads. That's all you had to do to give it a shot. But Roku's like, okay, we'll pick up the trash out of the dumpster. We'll try it. We'll try to recycle this garbage. Roku would require the rights to Quibi's library. Financial terms were not learned. Quibi shows with less than 10 minutes in length feature such stars as Anna Kendrick. That was one with the sex doll that she was boyfriends with, or some fucking weird thing. Liam Hemsworth and Sophie Turner. The shows include Most Dangerous Game, a thriller about human hunting, Dummy, a series about a talking sex doll, there it is, and Murder House Flip, a fusion of home improvement programming and true crime shows. That sounds awful.
Yep, sounds miserable.
And now you know why. So the deals were that Quibi basically was getting their shows leased to them that they were paying for. This is why it was so dumb. So they weren't owning it.
Yeah,
so,
they never. That was, and we talked about that. They never truly owned any of the stuff that they were
financing.
Showing. Yeah.
It's weird when Netflix produces a show, they own it. Like it's theirs. You're not gonna see Stranger Things gone in 5 years. It's gonna stay there. Not with Quibi somehow. So it was almost like the producers know it was going to, people running the show knew it was going to fail. Like, oh, we want to hedge our bets here. We know this shit's going to be fail.
I feel like everyone who signed on board was like, well, it's a paycheck for a year.
It's free. It's free money.
Right.
It's free money, and we can get the content back.
It's free real estate.
So Roku's trying to do this and build their base up. And hey, if there's some diamonds in the rough here, I think 1 or 2 shows won an Emmy. It makes sense to do that. So their app launched in 2017. I had no idea about the Roku channel. So this is some, basically they can get content for pennies in the dollar. That's what can happen here.
Yeah.
You know? So like Warner Media has its own HBO Max app. We're now in the streaming wars officially. It wasn't clear. We're in the streaming wars going forward for the 2020s. We're in the 2020s. We're in the 2021s.
We are. We're in the 21s.
The official start of the decade at the ones, if you want to get really technical, since there was no year zero. People forget that. There should have been, but they said at the time they're like, we don't know if the time's crossing over, so we don't know if there's a year zero. They didn't. At the time they were too dumb to realize that. They didn't realize they were dumb 2,000 years ago, right? They should have said, hey, don't you feel it? Don't you feel it? It's not BC anymore. It's AD in the year of our Lord. I forget the Latin.
Anyway. Anno Domini.
There you go. Never took Latin.
I took 3 years of it. I loved it. I absolutely fucking loved Latin.
And there's some lost years in there, but hey, whatever. Everyone agrees at this point it's 2020, even though it probably isn't.
Close enough.
There's a few lost years in there, probably, when the Pope transferred. When did the Pope officially change the calendar date? Was that in the first 400s or so? 500s? Someone will point that out.
That I don't know.
Someone got on me for my whole thing about the fish and left a voicemail, which we'll get to maybe next week, and like try to give me a Wikipedia lesson. That annoyed me as more I listened to it about that. So people are listening about make sure
fish.
About I said about after Vatican II that you could eat fish on.
Oh,
you can eat meat on Fridays after that, except for Lent. There's a technicality to that. It wasn't exactly Vatican II, but it happened around the same time of that. So, anyway, sorry, that voicemail annoyed me in good spirit when I was listening to it. I was like, really? You're going to get me on that? Okay. You're going to get me on that? Okay. Sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, so Quibi still sucks, and the content probably won't do Roku a huge amount of good. But it's content.
Yeah,
right?
it's content.
We don't have content at ultimatenintendo.com, but we do have wares you can buy, physical items and digital. We got physical. Wow, that's the fourth time you yawned.
We've got the enamel pins. We've got the SNES books. We've got the pad on Cameo.
That's not on the story. You're just mailing it in.
We've got the Twitch on Wednesday night.
I'm not on Cameo on the shop. I am on Cameo, cameo.com/PatContry.
It's this chunk here. That's all.
But yeah, so check us out there. Oh, the DVDs are on sale. I stumbled upon a couple boxes of the Volume 3s.
Oh, ho, ho.
45% off right now in the store. So there you go.
Front there.
You want to see Elysia Dragoon boobies? This is the DVD for you right there. Get your thrills right there from the lovely Julia Fair. So you want to talk about the most convoluted cheat code ever?
Yeah. So apparently this is new to me.
I haven't seen it. It's new to me.
It's new to me. On Street Fighter Alpha 2 for the Super Nintendo, they discovered a extraordinarily ass-backwards code to unlock Shin Akuma. Here it is. It's rather crazy. You have to beat the arcade mode with a new high score. You have to enter the initials KAJ. Then upon returning to the title screen and using a controller in the second player slot, the player must hold down the L, X, Y, and start buttons, while another user navigates to versus mode with the first player controller. Then either player can hold the start button while selecting Akuma to unlock Shin Akuma. And you'll turn purple.
Wait, hold on. L,
X, Y.
X, Y, the top two.
L, X, Y, and start.
Whoa, you gotta like your left thumb has to really come over to hit the start button. Otherwise, you gotta use that's rough. That's crab fingers right there. That's a little bit rough right there to do that. Or you gotta use like a wrench to keep those buttons down.
Yeah.
Then you play hold start button. Okay. So that's insane.
Yeah, and apparently you said that some people have said no, that's been known for a while, but this news came to us. I believe they were reverse engineering the game, and that's how they discovered it.
They looked in the code. Whoever you'd have to. How could you? That's not a cheat code anymore. That's a weird ass. I don't know what to call that. That's not a cheat code at that point. There's too many steps involved for it to be a cheat code.
That's weird and laborious enough that I would almost call it like a debug, but you're not debugging anything. You're just unlocking the purple version of Akuma.
So it's the same guy. It's just he's purple.
I'm sure he has some differences. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. You put all that work in to keep this hidden for so many years. Because I mean, was this discovered when the game was out?
I don't know.
Do you know, Ian?
I don't know. I just don't know.
Good news from Nintendo. They've done this. I think they've worked with Starlight before, right? Nintendo?
I believe so. Starlight. So, Starlight is a company that makes video game console. What do you want to call them? Like
kiosks or
kiosks. Yeah,
stations.
Stations for hospitals. And they can be wheeled around to various hospital rooms. And they've done Switch ones. And the Switch ones have 25 games installed on them, ranging from Mario Party to Legend of Zelda. I see some Mario Tennis Aces on here. That's a high quality rootin' tootin' game. I love.
It's a rootin' tootin' game.
Someone
rootin' tootin'.
Someone called me.
You want a sarsaparilla?
Someone called me a rootin' tootin' son of a bitch about 2 weeks ago online.
Early 80s AWA promo? What the fuck?
And I have been laughing about it ever since because rootin' tootin' it's a funny combination of words. So they've got these Switch ones now that they have been giving to hospitals that the patients can play in their off time, which apparently has been very important because with COVID, all of like the playrooms and fun centers and whatnot that are normally in children's hospitals have been closed down.
I think about that. Jesus.
I remember when we went to Rady's Children's Hospital to do like there's like a cutting on like some Xbox One. Remember we went down and they were unveiling like the Xbox One stations that basically were the same kind of deal as this. And I remember them talking about it and how it's all made with like particular plastics and stuff that can
they're like resistant to germs,
like
bacteria.
germ resistant plastics and stuff like that. And that's what these are made out of too.
So that's a proper term.
Antimicrobial.
Not sure about the controllers though.
Fuck it.
I guess controllers they gotta like put a wrapper on them or something.
But they probably need to put a wrapper on them, or just severely disinfect them afterwards.
Lysol them. It'll be fine.
I'm sure they're spraying down the systems too. But yeah, it's nice to see. And
there you go. Something good and positive.
Yeah. Over the past 28 years, they've partnered with Nintendo for 28 years. They've delivered 7,200 Starlight Nintendo gaming stations to over 800 hospitals and healthcare facilities all over the country. I remember seeing some GameCube ones at Rady's, and I think that's actually maybe what those Xbox One ones were replacing, because I remember them saying that their older gaming stations were kind of like out of date.
Don't diss the old GameCube out there.
I'm not. I'm just saying.
Hey, kids want to play that Fortnite. Kids want to play that. I remember the kids were playing. Remember the kids was playing Minecraft.
Minecraft was the big one.
That was a big one at the time. That was like what, 2016.
I would imagine that Minecraft is probably still a big one.
Well, you can get that on the Switch right now, can't you?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Absolutely.
It's still holding on. All right, Bean Dad. We got to talk Bean Dad.
I don't really have any. At this point, I think I'm over Bean Dad.
We don't talk about a lot of stuff that goes viral on the internet. We try to keep this pop culture, gaming. You know, we rarely talk about politics because people lose their shit. By the way, go vote in Georgia today on the Tuesday the 5th. It's pretty important senatorial thing. The whole balance of power.
Yeah,
it literally hangs in the balance. So literally. But anyway, so Being Dead. So this guy, his name was John Roderick. I guess he did some music stuff and he co-hosted a podcast with Ken Jennings from Jeopardy. That's what. But people discovered him because of his pretentiously awful. Borderline child abusive thread about his story about teaching his daughter how to figure out problem solving by starving her for 6 hours because she didn't know how to use a can opener to open a can of beans. That's pretty much the long and the short of it. And it wasn't just that he did this in a long Twitter thread. He was immensely proud of what he thought was a bonding moment with his child. And I cannot tell you how awful and pretentious the writing was and how I was gagging.
23 tweets.
I was insulted as a writer myself trying to read through this. The writing was more pretentious and more self-absorbed than like fucking reading Dickens, which justifies that term of writing. This was more than that for the tale of two cities, the tale of two bean cans. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it was awful to read. But then doubling down on it, people said, "Wow, maybe you should have just showed your kid how to use a fucking can opener, especially since she was crying and really hungry and she hadn't eaten in several hours." It was awful.
Well, it's the part of the internet that I don't understand, and it's part of these types of people I don't understand. When you have people come to you immediately after this, and it's a lot of people,
be like, "Hey, maybe you should look at what you did to your daughter here. Maybe this wasn't something that was actually positive."
He actually said something, and I can't pull up the actual tweet now, but he literally said something. "Oh, interesting that a lot of the people that are telling me that this is okay are people who already followed me, and people who are telling me this isn't okay are people who don't follow me and have never paid attention to me before." And essentially what he's saying in that tweet by saying that is echo chambers are good. Echo chambers are good, and I don't need outside opinions. I do think that the internet is quick to pile on. We're all bored. We're all living in a COVID world. And as a pretty good article I read about this, said.
By the way, he deleted his Twitter account, but obviously there's receipts. You can look at the whole twit thread, whatever on here.
Derailed me.
COVID, ourselves.
It feels like we're kind of checking in, every day, like almost it's a job to see which person we're angry at today. But there is a reason why people react to this stuff, and it can't hurt you to stop and maybe think and analyze before doubling and tripling down on the thing that you did. I mean, were you just so proud of your 23 tweet thread that you couldn't possibly see it as anything other than genius? I don't know. And he did put out an apology, and I read the apology, and it says the right things and all that, but it's just...
Well, this is my worst nightmare.
It could have been solved by a little bit of self-reflection when the reflection was when it was fresh.
Let's put it this way. I'm not sure the story happened like this. He might have embellished it a little bit. Maybe it was a couple hours.
In his apology, he says it's not how the story happened.
So if you call yourself a humorist, I think I said even before, I draw the line when it comes to stuff where it's like child abuse. Like, I publicly defended it in one way or another. People saying, things that, too edgy or whatever. I don't think they should have been canceled for it. So I'm not on the side on cancel culture usually.
I don't think cancel culture exists.
The overall term, I just mean to embody. Someone says one thing wrong, let's try to end them. That's what I mean. I'm not on that side. But when it comes to, I think when it comes to children and potentially abusive things, there's no longer to me any sort of angle for humor anymore, and I think that's where a lot of people would draw the line. Even if this was meant to be humorous, you missed the mark entirely. You swung and missed because now I'm just imagining you being a terrible father, because there probably are some parents like this. I'm not saying my father was like this, but there are fathers that might say, "Oh, figure it out for yourself, kid." Thankfully, I mean, hopefully this is not how you raise your daughter. I'm not gonna say this person did this, but I think when it comes to children, that's where they get amped up more, because they remember as their upbringings
Yes.
and how they were abused and things like that. And that's where even any semblance of trying to be edgy, I think, goes out the window. It's kind of hard to have a kid be the brunt of your story and have the kid being crying and try to be funny. It's just not a good angle. I can't picture that being successful unless you're a really good comedian and you figure out how to do that, and that's your rep. You can't do it on Twitter, especially if you're in a stand-up routine and you do that after you built your brand and that's what you're known for, or that's how you get jokes across and people understand that. But not on fucking Twitter. You can't do that. It's insane to do that.
Right. I mean, if you did it especially if you did it in a stand-up special, people would be approaching it knowing that you're at least trying to do something for a humor value.
I mean, there's a point to be made above that. This wasn't a point. This was just trying to say, look how cool my fathering skills are.
Yeah. Look how awesome I am. It definitely seemed very narcissistic.
Absolutely.
It was how it came across.
And then his past tweets came out where it was like, either was trying to be edgy or not.
Anti-Semitic slurs, using terms like mud people, just definitely. This is the thing, and I think there's been a lot of discussion after Being Dead that has said this. This guy represents,
because he's like what, early 50s, I think it came out, something like that.
Late 40s or early 50s. He represents this weird middle-aged male comedian. Oftentimes white male comedian who is edgy with no point. You get these comedians that do their stand-up specials and they get heat afterwards for, say, ripping on trans folks, and their response is usually, well, I'm here to push the boundaries, I'm here to make you uncomfortable. But you're punching down, and you need to actually be funny. If you're going, if you're just edgy without any humor or without, what do they say about satire? You have to actually be satiring something for it to be satire. You can't just say a bunch of edgy shit and go, oh, it's satire. It doesn't work that way. You have to be satirizing something. You have to actually be funny for this to work.
Yes, and that's like 90% of it. You have to make people laugh,
and you're not making people laugh. Otherwise, you're just being another bigot.
Yeah, I mean, there's an art. That's why being a stand-up comedian is like the most difficult thing in the fucking world to do. I wouldn't wish it on anyone to try to do it unless their heart was into it. This is why James Gunn got in trouble for his awful tweets that he put out in the years in the past, where there was no punchline. It was just like, oh, he said something like sex and babies or something, and it was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what? That's not. You're not. Come on, dude. Like, move on from that stuff. Like, you leave that stuff like in like college or like your early 20s, like that, you grow up a little bit. You don't say this stuff in your 40s. You just don't. But you're right. It's like the same time thing. Yeah, James Gunn is like 54. So it's the same thing with him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he should have lost all his gigs from it, but it was awful. The past jokes from what he said. It's awful. So.
It's the James Gunn, Ricky Gervais, all that stuff where you just say stuff for shock value and you expect that to be a career. At some point, people get tired of this shit.
It's a shame because Ricky Gervais, he's generally funny when he wants to make a point, but he veers off into the cancel culture stuff. That becomes my whole act, and then it becomes tiresome at that point. Like, go back to actual funny material at that point. Yeah, I think I followed Ricky Gervais on Twitter way long ago for a short period of time. I was like, okay, this is enough. Like, you're not saying anything.
He's an insufferable twat. I fucking hate the dude.
Okay, well, I mean, Office is a genius show. And he's done some good work.
I mean, yeah, he did. I've watched The Office. I know it's good, but I mean, that doesn't mean I'm going to give him a free pass.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is that you can be. It shows that even if you're a funny person, you can veer into this, and you can't. It's hard to get yourself out of it at some point, and then you lean on it.
Well, you fall into a self-pity party too, which is always hard to come out of. Which I think is what a lot of these guys have done.
Oh sure. Anyway, what we were saying, Bean Dad, the saga to start 2020. It's almost what we needed to come together. Almost everyone came together against Bean Dad. All right,
Bean Dad was Twitter's main character of the day, as they say, the villain. Real quick, there was a Sonic prototype ROM found. It was documented at hiddenpalace.org, and it has been. People were streaming it over the weekend. So this is big. HiddenPalace.org has been trying to find a Sonic the Hedgehog 1 prototype for, I think, 15 years at this point. And they found numerous Sonic 2 prototypes. They found a Sonic 3 prototype. But they were eventually thinking that they were never, ever going to find this Sonic the Hedgehog 1 prototype. And eventually they did. They detail in a very good article at hiddenpalace.org. They go through a brief history of Sonic and what it was like, to create Sonic in an era where Mario was the competition. Talks about the importance, then goes on to talk about how they've always been proactive in trying to find stuff. They haven't been a group that's sat around and tried to let stuff fall into their lap, and they've always gone out trying to find these prototypes and find this lost Sonic the Hedgehog stuff, and how it was kind of amusing that they finally did get this Sonic the Hedgehog 1 prototype 15 years later, and it just kind of fell into their laps. It was given to them by a person online who goes by the name Buckaroo.
Buckaroo?
Buckaroo.
Hey, Buckaroo.
Rootin' Tootin' Buckaroo. It's a good name, Buckaroo. And it is the version, it's the preview version. It appears to be the preview version that was used in many of the magazine previews back in the day. It has levels and background items that were not in the final version. And some of the levels were vastly different. Like Labyrinth Zone, I think has no water in it yet, and that's, largely a water level. The background for Spring Hill Zone has signs in it that wouldn't be in the finished one, like a sign that says goodbye, and I think there's a sign that says cope. So it's very interesting to actually finally
Copium?
To see people be able to go through and play this build that was locked in pictures and magazines for so long, but no one had ever been able to get their hands on.
Okay, that's fantastic. This is the golden age of game preservation. Like I said, probably started like a year and a half ago, something like that, where all of a sudden this stuff started coming out more, or people were encouraged not to just hold on to this stuff and realize there was
I'd say 2018 2019 was where there started to be a real turnaround in the outlook on game preservation, and suddenly the people who were holding on to stuff just to hold on to it were no longer the cool kids that you wanted to be. They were rightfully cast as the villains.
Hey, and if Ian and me helped a little bit to shame a few people, and maybe someone who claimed to be a game preservationist selling shit on eBay without dumping stuff, if that stuff comes out and makes hey, maybe I shouldn't do this, then so be it. Sons of Liberty, damn it. Get the scalding hot tea. What? Anyway, so you're gonna check out this ROM. By the way, we're at the 30th anniversary of Sonic, right? In a few months.
Oh, wow.
It was like spring of '91, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
you're gonna check out this ROM.
Yeah, I think I probably will check it out at some point. It'd be easy for me to check it out.
So what did it? So what? Looking at this story, I wasn't getting. I mean, it's a long thread. They were almost, it said they're ready to retire. Were they being cheeky, or was this really like their goal of trying to get?
Well, no, I think they were probably accurate. I mean, it's not. They've been doing something for 15 years. They've dug up, countless things that they weren't intending to dig up.
But that's just as good, if that's not better.
It is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think anyone after 15 years of doing the same thing it's okay to say, hey, maybe I'm going to move on and do something else. I don't think it was so much the fact that they couldn't find a Sonic 1 prototype. I think it was just finally they were like, man, maybe we're done doing this.
Oh, they got to stick around, right?
But they've got this.
So we consider retiring, but we're excited to see what the next decade brings. Between the Video Game History Foundation, Gaming Alexandria, Cutting Room Floor, Borman's work at the Museum of Play, Obscure Gamers, and many more.
Hey, Andrew Borman.
The future is very bright.
I like him.
So we don't think we'll be going anywhere. The more the merrier, right? There's not enough money in this. This isn't, what I mean? This isn't like preserving, like ancient art, in museums. It's too new, and a lot of it's digital, and a lot of it's weird. That you need a lot of different people working on this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, people come to me with saying, hey, Pat, I have this prototype. What do you want to do with it? Or what should I do? Like, it happens. It's all scattered to the ends of the earth, all over all this stuff. And it'll be coming out more and more, hopefully. And in the Roaring 20s we've reached, everyone. The Roaring 2020s.